Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our regular council meeting of June 16th, 2026. I now call the meeting to order at 5:31 and would like to ask the clerk for the roll call.
Mayor Sidney.
Present.
Reeve Emo.
Present.
Councillor Legree. Councillor McWhirter.
Present.
Councillor McDonald.
Present.
Councillor Cebulski.
Present.
Councillor Energy.
Present.
Mayor Sidney, we do have quorum.
Thank you. As we gather, we would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all of the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Can I please have you stand for O Canada? Any declaration of interest? Hearing and seeing none. Oh, sorry. Any declaration of interest?
Actually, I will be declaring a conflict of interest on looking at the MOU for the Recreation Fundraising Committee.
Great, thank you, duly noted. Any other declaration of interest? Hearing none. On to meeting delegation presentation. We are going into a public meeting. So we will now declare the public meeting portion of this agenda open. At this time, I will ask staff to read the recital and provide a description of the matters being considered. So I'll now turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney. I'll be presenting on behalf of the planning section this evening. Just give me a moment while I get myself organized. The matter this evening pertains to a zoning bylaw amendment that will have the effect of implementing the additional dwelling unit policy provisions of the Planning Act and the regulation related to it, OREG 299-19. The amendment will have the effect of replacing the existing secondary dwelling unit provisions with the updated additional dwelling unit or additional residential unit provisions within single detached, semi-detached, and multiple attached dwellings, as well as within accessory buildings in accordance with the requirements of the Act and the proposed provisions of the bylaw. The effect of the amendment in terms of the impact is to increase housing options in accordance with the provincial direction to increase the amount of housing that is supplied within Ontario communities and to support residential intensification while ensuring compatibility with surrounding development. And I will note that this is a provincial requirement. This is not, in fact, if we do not proceed with this bylaw amendment either this evening or at any point in time, Planning Act actually specifies that any portion of a bylaw that has the effect of prohibiting a minimum of 3 dwelling units on a parcel of urban residential land actually is of no force and effect. So at any rate, we are bringing this forward this time to bring ourselves into conformity with the Planning Act in respect of the additional residential unit provisions. I'll note they've been in effect for some time. With respect to recitals, all members of the public that are in attendance who wish to provide oral comments With respect to the application or the proposed amendment, we'll have the opportunity to address the committee momentarily. Any and all comments and information submitted orally in writing, including identifying information, does become part of the public record and could be made publicly available at any point, including on the town's website, other electronic forms of publication, and that's in accordance with Planning Act requirements. Before speaking, we ask that anyone providing comments is asked to clearly state their name and address for the record. And to provide their contact information on the sign-in sheet with the recording secretary following the hearing. We will get a sign-in sheet for anyone in attendance. I don't see one on the table, but we're going to get one. That's great. Just a note in regards to appeal provisions under Section 3419(1) of the Planning Act, there are no appeals permitted in respect of a bylaw passed to permit ADUs. And we can confirm that the required notice for this application was given in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. At this point, we can open the floor to members of the public in attendance. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on this application? Yes, sir. Come on up. Yeah, make sure the green light's on the microphone, and if you could state your name and address, please.
Good evening, Your Worship, Mayor Sidney and councillors. My name is Joel McRae at 304 Forest View Crescent in the Hunter Gate subdivision. I'm pleased to hear you're moving forward with an application to amend zoning bylaw number 46-2010. There is a clear need for more housing and affordable options in Renfrew, and it makes great sense to utilize the space we already have without adding to the cost of infrastructure or our footprint. Looking ahead to retirement, many of us see an opportunity to develop our basements or outbuildings into self-contained suites, which will help provide safe, comfortable spaces for those in need of a rental unit. This is a win-win situation for all and can help offset our living expenses in retirement while allowing us to live in our homes for longer, while also helping alleviate a shortage of rental units. Unlike our parents or grandparents, many of us will be carrying mortgages well into retirement. And with fixed income and inflation nipping at our heels, this bylaw amendment opens doors to new possibilities. For the record, I support and strongly encourage you to proceed with this amendment at the earliest opportunity, and hopefully I've helped give a voice to many like-minded residents who are not able to be here tonight. I thank you for your time this evening, and I hope these changes generate enough interest and action to make a difference in the affordable housing shortage. As far as questions, I will work with the planning department for any specific questions regarding my own property. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Now, as far as council goes, so this is a public meeting, so if you have any questions for the gentleman, that's fine. But the actual report where we'll be voting on it comes later in the meeting. So if you have questions or comments then, it'd probably be a better time to do it then before we pass or decline. So is that good? Perfect. Thank you very much. Is there anybody else from the member of the public? Hearing and seeing none. So this concludes the public meeting. Thank members of the public in attendance for their participation and wish everybody a great evening. There's no delegation, no presentation, announcements. I have a few. A reminder to residents that to keep the community informed on summer road construction projects, the town now has a dedicated construction update section on our website. Residents can visit it at renfrew.ca for the latest updates or download the Town of Renfrew app to receive construction notices directly to your phone or email. Also, Canada Day is fast approaching. It's in full swing. We're getting ready to welcome the community for a full day of celebrations, activities, and entertainment for all ages. Canada Day is Renfrew this year is presented by Q Cycling and Sports at Mattaway Park. Enjoy a full fun day of family-friendly activities, including a classic car show, live entertainment, Indigenous artisan fair, inflatables, face painting games, giveaways, a free community barbecue, Citizen of the Year awards, museum displays, and more. The celebration concludes with a spectacular fireworks display at dusk. Bring your family and your friends and join us to celebrate our wonderful country. A reminder that the 2026 municipal election will take place this October, and now is the time to make sure you are registered to vote. As of January 1st, 2024, Elections Ontario became responsible for maintaining the voters list for municipal and school board elections. A role previously managed by MPAC, this means that all voter registration, address changes, and updates to voter information must be completed directly through Elections Ontario. Residents are encouraged to visit registertovoteon.ca to confirm that their information is accurate and up to date. Municipalities in impact no longer maintain voter records, so taking a few minutes to verify your information will make it ensure that you are ready to cast your ballot this fall. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to staff, council members, and the dedicated volunteers with the Bonnechere River Trail Working Group. The recent work installing new steps and picnic table along our beautiful trail is helping to improve accessibility and enhance the experience for all users. The group will also be seeking additional volunteers later this summer and into the fall as they continue with small but important improvements. Please watch for upcoming volunteer calls and for social media channels and consider getting involved. And hosted by the Bonnechere Algonquins First Nation in partnership with the town of Renfrew, please join us at Mattaway Park on Sunday, June 21st from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. for our National Indigenous Peoples Day celebration. This is a meaningful opportunity for our community to come together in recognition and celebrate of Indigenous culture, strength, and tradition. The event will feature drumming by the Sippy women drummers, Indigenous dancers, and a community barbecue, all set within a welcoming and family-friendly atmosphere. Everyone is welcome to attend as we share in the culture, stories, and the spirit of the Indigenous people of this land. And finally, I just want to acknowledge that the announcement of the winners of the Citizen of the Year and those awards has been made public. So this year, the not-for-profit winner is Renfrew Rotary Club. Senior Volunteer of the Year is Bruce Rozicki. Community Champion is Charlene Riopel, and the Citizen of the Year is Merv Warren. So I want to congratulate all the winners and the nominees. Well deserved, both the nominees and the winners. So thank you to the committee for looking after that. And any other announcements from council? Hearing and seeing none. Check and read. Moving on. Not too far. Sorry, a little technical difficulty. The Renfrew Town Council convene as Committee of the Whole to consider reports for recommendations to Council. Mover, please. Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor McWhirter. All in favor? That's carried. We are now in Committee of the Whole. Moving on to Community Rec Services, My FM Center reduced office hours. That the Committee of the Whole recommends that Renfrew Town Council approve the reduction in office hours at the My FM Center to close at 9 p.m. on weekdays and 2 p.m. on weekends. Mover, please. Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor McWhirter. And I will now turn it over to Acting Director Fraser.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So the office at MyFM, the customer service office, is currently open from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. during the week, Monday to Friday, and 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. on the weekends. We are noticing a reduction in transactions. I wouldn't even say reduction. It's just been slow in there, specifically 9 p.m. until 10 p.m. during the week and 2 p.m. until 6 p.m. on the weekends. So with that being said, looking to reduce those office hours, there is significant annual savings in doing that. Have spoken with all of the customer service reps that this would affect. Everyone is on board and understanding of why we would want to do that. So we are recommending for the office to close at 9 p.m. during the week and 2 p.m. on the weekends. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from Council? Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. And just a statement, I think this is a great first step in looking for efficiencies within our town that's data-driven. So I like the approach and I like the report you put forth with regard to it. I'm just wondering, have we ever looked at different technologies that can assist us with efficiencies that you're aware of? Not trying to put you on the spot.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. No. Is there something in, like, specifically, like a door counter or something that you're...
No, I like the approach, through you, Mayor. I like the approach that we're meeting the needs of the public, but dealing with efficiencies, and I'm just wondering if there was any technologies out there. No, I wasn't thinking door count. I was just wondering if there's anything out there. Thank you.
Councillor McWhirter.
Mayor, again, I could, as fellow Councillor McDonald said, I'd like to just make a statement and say kudos to Acting Director Fraser. This is the kind of forward thinking we at council love to see. Cost savings, directors that are conscious about the cost savings, and certainly appreciate the effort put into it. Thank you.
Anybody else? I just want to sort of, oh, Rebimo, sorry. I keep forgetting you're up there.
That's okay, thank you. I'm eminently forgettable, so don't worry about it. I really like this approach, and I would ask if there's a means of tracking it seasonally, because maybe we end up going to summer hours in the future, and winter hours being different. So if I agree with this, and I really like option 3, where you bring it back in 3 or 4 months. So if there's a means of doing it over a year to pace out any demands, there might be other reductions or other adjustment of hours. But yeah, I really like this. I'm glad you brought it to us, and I support it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah, and just sort of echo some of what's been said, but also to point out the fact that even though it's in the budget, that you took the time to review it, look at it, and recommend that we cut it back, because it's a cost savings. So you didn't have to do that. So I appreciate it. Thank you. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Moving on to Minor Hockey Association. That the Committee of the Whole recommends that Renfrew Town Council approve the Memorandum of Understanding between the Town of Renfrew and Renfrew Minor Hockey Association, and further that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward for adoption. Mover, please. Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Sobalski, and I'll turn it back over to Acting Director Fraser.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So on May 12th, John Pohl, President of RMHA, attended council, did a delegation, kind of proposing an agreement or an MOU with the town. On May 26th, at that council meeting, Councillor Dick did put forward a motion to explore the possibility of an MOU with RMHA. So staff has met with RMHA, has come forward with the proposed or draft MOU that is attached to this report. In sum, it's respecting facility recognition, meeting space access, tournament support, storage space, community partnerships, and youth programming initiatives. So if you have any questions about the MOU or specific things within it, you're more than welcome to ask. Otherwise, we are looking for the approval of the MOU that's brought forward. Thank you.
Any questions from Council? Hearing in, oh, Rebimo?
Okay, thank you very much. Just wondering about adding to it a section 3.2.3, which would be in the event there's any digital signage in the facility, because I would guess we're going to at some point put an internal, I'll call it closed circuit TV system for announcements throughout the building, but there is one in the lobby at present. And is that possible to add something like that in? And then also 3.2.4, for our digital signs, the 5 of them, if we could, is there a chance of putting that in to talk about accessing it when they're announcing a major tournament, or is there whenever there's registration or volunteer training, things like that, that are essentially community service announcements, but just to trigger them to start utilizing those?
Thank you. Great suggestions. When speaking with RMHA, that wasn't brought up. However, not to say that it's not a great idea and shouldn't be included. I don't know what the next steps would be. Clerk, I'm looking at you, as to how to move forward with making an amendment to that and getting that passed for next week.
Clerk,
Through you, Mayor. So certainly amendments can be made to the agreement so long as they're agreeable with the other party as well. And then when the bylaw comes back for final adoption, you would see those attached in it. I would say based on the timing of next week's meeting, which is happening next Tuesday, we may not have opportunity to get those amendments identified and agreed to, so we might look at having the MOU brought back in August at our next meeting, so there would just be a little bit of a delay.
Councillor Andrew Dick.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney. And my first question, and through you, was John Pohl in the meeting for this?
Acting Director?
Yes.
Okay, and then a follow-up, more of a comment. I personally don't think we need to change it. John Pohl lives and breathes marketing, advertising. He knows what he's doing. And if he didn't bring it up, it wasn't an issue to him. If he's happy with what we have for an understanding, I think we're quite okay. I wouldn't want to open up the doors. As great of an idea as Revimo stated, I wouldn't want to open the doors for every understanding letter that we come forward with that they're going to want the same thing. And then all of a sudden, our billboards and everything are just filled up with advertising. So I'm okay with leaving it as is. However, I work at the pleasure with my fellow councils, but I like it the way it is, and I would vote in favor of the way it is.
Any other questions, comments? Revimo?
Well, I tend to vote in favor of it. There's no issue with that.
Any other questions? I'll just make I think they're great suggestions the Reeves did, but I think now that it's been publicly stated, they know they can use it, and it's a public billboard anyway, so the option's still there. So, any other questions? Hearing none. All in favor of this motion? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Moving on to Development and Environment. That the Committee of the Whole recommend that Renfrew Town Council adopt the proposed bylaw, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 46-2010 with respect to the additional dwelling units ADU. Mover, please. Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Sobalski, and I'll turn it over to the acting CAO.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, and through you. This is the staff report with respect to the zoning bylaw amendment that we just had the public meeting for. The recommendation is that the Committee of the Whole adopts the proposed zoning bylaw amendment with respect to additional dwelling units. We are requesting consideration and adoption this evening at Council's pleasure. The idea being just to bring the zoning bylaw into conformity with the Planning Act. It's required, appreciating that there might be questions about the draft. We've tried to make the draft, I'm going to say, as uncomplicated as possible, while still ensuring that important matters of integration of additional dwelling units, particularly in accessory structures, have been integrated. We want to make sure that as these are implemented, and I'll note that there hasn't been these provisions, and this requirement has been in the Planning Act and has superseded zoning provisions to the contrary for, I think, a couple of years now. We've not seen the mass uptake that we were kind of thinking was going to happen, and the overwhelming of our sanitary and our water systems, et cetera, just hasn't materialized. I think that's somewhat, I would like to see more uptake, and hopefully with these provisions in place, and as we potentially roll out some more educational material, how-to guides, infographics, visuals, et cetera, that we can get more people interested and engaged in this type of redevelopment. At any rate, not a new concept, but we are asking if council's pleasure if you would adopt it this evening. Certainly, if council determines that you need more time to consider it, it can go on the next agenda. That's no problem. As noted, provincial requirement of through the Planning Act, particularly Section 16 sub 3, 35.1 sub 1, Section 16 being related to official plan, Section 34 being related to zoning bylaws, and 35.1 being pertaining to additional residential units. The Planning Act specifies what you could consider to be the floor, if you will, for development on lots with full municipal services. So we must permit a minimum of 3 residential units per lot. It is not a ceiling. Okay, there are many municipalities, the City of Ottawa most recently, their zoning bylaw now permits an as of right 4 residential units per lot. The provincial government and the federal government have been asking municipalities to consider permitting 4 residential units per lot. But the minimum the Planning Act requires municipalities to permit through their official plans and zoning is 3. You have to permit 3. And these can be permitted, you have to permit these in single detached, semi-detached, and townhouse dwellings. Okay, so single detached, pretty straightforward. You can have 3 in the building, or you can have 2 in the building and 1 in an accessory structure. With a semi-detached, you can have 1 in the principal. You can have, 3 in the principal on the one side, or you can have 2 in the principal and 1 in accessory. And with townhouses, the Planning Act prescribes that we have to allow people to have potentially 3 units per individual unit in the townhouse, and then an accessory, potentially an accessory structure. So that's what the Planning Act prescribes. I don't really think the townhouse one is such a great idea, but we have to permit it. So we don't have really a choice in that matter. I kind of look at that and I don't think you really have the parking for it. So I think in most cases you have 2 parking spaces per townhouse, kind of 1 in the garage, one in the driveway, and so you probably can't meet the parking requirements to have 3 anyway. But I kind of digress. We have to have them singles, semis, towns. With respect to our proposed zoning bylaw amendment, we basically just pulled in what the Planning Act requires in terms of that specific language. We've dealt a little bit with a little bit more detail with regard to the accessory structures, and the reason being is that there's a potential for pretty significant impacts. If you have, everyone's got an accessory structure and they're real close to the lot lines, people's backyards, side yards, we foresee that being a potential issue. So we've kind of landed on what we're recommending to council is that accessory structures, they've got to be accessory structures that meet the provisions of the zoning bylaw. If they're non-compliant, that's okay with respect to setbacks. Sometimes they're real close. They're closer than an accessory structure can be. That's okay. But what they can't have is they can't have any windows facing a side yard or a rear yard unless they meet the setbacks for what would be required for the house. Okay, so this is kind of just, I think it makes some logical sense, and this is how we've approached it. You have to have the same setbacks as you would for a house if you're going to have any windows facing the rear yard or the side yard. If you're just meeting the accessory structure setbacks, then you can still have it, but you can't have any windows facing people's yards. So we want to respect people's privacy and those kinds of things. So we've kind of baked that into the provisions. Parking spaces, they can be tandem, they can be stacked. Okay, so shuffling and whatnot, that's permitted. It has to be permitted under the Planning Act because that was a thing. Does it have to be double wide, triple wide? No, it can be single wide driveway. Anyone can occupy the ADUs, doesn't have to be the owner. So the owner doesn't have to be on the property, it can be a rental, that's fine. Has to be on same water and sanitary service. Okay, so all 3 units have to be connected, 1 property, 1 set of services. That's something that we've included. It's not required, we've included it. Talked about the windows. For properties on partial services or private services, the 3-unit ADU thing doesn't apply. We still have the secondary dwelling unit provisions that they have to demonstrate based on hydrogeological studies, nitrogen impact, groundwater quality and quantity metrics have to be met. They have to demonstrate you can actually accommodate it. So there's a little bit higher level of effort on private services, and you can only go up to 2. With respect to servicing, again, definitely something that we've thought of, I think, as an industry in terms of impacts. Hasn't really materialized in terms of, serious issues with respect to mains, water mains, sewer mains. That said, we are monitoring it. On a historical basis, per capita water and sanitary sewer use has been decreasing relative to design capacities for local water and sanitary mains. So we had 200 or 250, and I'm not going to kind of getting out of my element here, but the main sizes have kind of remained the same, even though your efficiencies have kind of increased, and so we're using generally less water. So that definitely helps. We are required to track water and sanitary sewage capacity allocations annually. We bring those reports forward to council annually. In terms of our plant capacity, we are way under capacity. There's not even a remote concern about that. The only real thing would be pipe capacity for water and sanitary sewer. And again, we're not anticipating any serious issues. Certainly, we'll be monitoring and tracking that, and we'd bring it forward if we noted anything. So those are my remarks. If there are any questions pertaining to the draft bylaw, certainly happy to answer them. We did receive, at the time of writing in this report, no written comments, no public comments or agency comments. We did receive one written comment yesterday, if memory serves, and that was forwarded to council, provided to council for their information. If there are any questions in regards to that public comment, certainly happy to answer them. The essence of it being basically a legal argument related to whether we're able to permit semis on the same lot to have ARUs per side. Our recommendation remains the same. We believe it can. We believe there's precedent for it. In fact, the City of Ottawa's zoning bylaw up until their new bylaw in 2026 had exactly that framework. So that's what we're proposing. We're confident in that, and our recommendation remains unchanged. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Revimo, I know you had your hand up there a while ago. I saw you this time.
Great, thank you. And through you, Your Worship, to Mr. Withers, just a housekeeping thing. In the first recital, it says bylaw 46 period 210, and the rest of it is 46-210. I don't know if that's anything of significance, but it's just in case it's always a legal document, I get a little nervous. Under section 1L, I believe it is. Sorry, 1K. It says the ADU shall be connected to the same municipal water supply and sewage disposal system as the principal dwelling. I'm wondering, is there the opportunity for some kind of a justification report? Because if it's an older residence with a clay pipe or a tree growing through it, I think that might cause us problems and flood the existing the existing residents. So I'm curious if there's anything within the CBO, the Ontario Building Code, for that. And then is that something that should be done by permit when there's a hookup, and is there a wholesale inspection of the system right through from the new unit out to the street?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Reeve. So that would typically be undertaken as part of the building permit process. We'd be looking at this at the sanitary sewer and the water services to make sure they can actually accommodate what's being proposed. If in fact there are constraints that are not sized appropriately, wouldn't meet building code requirements, and we wouldn't be able to issue the permit. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Your Worship, if I may, I like what you've done with the idea of blockading and closing off the windows that are too close to the side or rear yard. I think that's a great idea. And I understand that it's permitted to have stacked parking. I have some concerns about that, and I'm worried that we may end up with some bylaw issues trying to enforce that when residents don't get along, but that's, par for the course. The other piece is just I want to review, if I may, Mr. Withers, your qualifications in terms of being able to make this report. And I think I covered this off before, but I want to make sure it's public. You are a professional planner with registered professional planner.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and with that, there is professional obligations?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that includes training, current practices, and things like that?
That's correct.
Okay, and then the last thing is, do you anticipate, should this ever or anything else go to the land tribunal, that you could be sworn as a professional or as a expert witness?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the last question: have we received any correspondence from anybody else that has suggested they're a professional?
We have not.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Directed towards the CAO. So basically, it's provincially mandated. We have no say. Follow up to that. You're nodding. Go ahead.
We in fact have no say on this.
Thank you. Now, make this make sense for me, because we're talking about townhouses where you can put ADUs on it, yet we're concerned about windows for privacy. We all know that townhouses usually don't have much land. Make that make sense. You gave your opinion, but how do we navigate that in terms of a town?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Every property is going to be, you got to deal with it on every property on a site-specific basis. I'm going to suggest that many interior units for a townhouse would not meet the minimum side yard requirements for an accessory structure, while at the same time meeting the minimum dwelling requirements under the Ontario Building Code. That's a bit of a guess, but I think that's a fairly safe assumption. I could be wrong. But that being said, the requirement to meet the zoning bylaw with respect to parking, with respect to setbacks, with respect to lot coverage, these kinds of things they have to be met. If a lot can meet those requirements, then it's permitted. If it doesn't meet those requirements, it can come to the Committee of Adjustment and for variance, and the Committee of Adjustment can determine whether or not it wants to permit it. But when you have a really tight building envelope, you're going to be naturally constrained by your ability to develop an additional residential unit in an accessory structure. So I think practically speaking, a townhouse, you're going to have some difficulty doing that. If it's a wider townhouse lot, you might be able to do it, but it's really just an exercise in math and configuration of the site.
Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, and thank you for the answer. With regard to the Reeves statements and the correspondence we received, Mayor, are you satisfied that we're moving in the right direction with this? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the report was well written. I think we want to see more housing opportunities in the town, affordable housing opportunities, and I think as long as I think paraphrasing what the CAO just said, as long as they meet the requirements of the lot and the building code and all the rest of it, I'm totally satisfied in the report that was provided, and I think it's moving us in the right direction as far as attainable housing and getting more people here. Councillor McWhorter.
You, Mayor, for the CEO. So you talked about connecting your additional unit through the same septic and water. Would that be required to have a separate meter also on that? Or because what I'm thinking is somebody does like a granny suite on the side of their place, obviously they're not going to charge their mom and dad rent or want to charge them for water and sewage, I would think, or you're in the bad books. So like, is it required to have that, or can you just tie it in and one meter pays all?
We are lucky enough to have our chief building official in the room, so I'm going to turn that over to him.
Great, thank you, through you, Mayor. Just to touch base earlier in regards to this being within the Planning Act, the building code, you haven't seen it, but it is made it easier to have additional dwelling units within a house as well. So they're working on both paths to get more additional units out there. In regards to Councillor McWhorter's question, so we have a bylaw that says that you cannot have 2 meters off of one service. So if you've only got one service in the house, you only have 1 meter. You're only allowed 1 meter. You can't split after that. For a town meter, they can have private meters for each unit, but that's on them. But our bylaw says 1 service, 1 water meter.
Thank you. Councillor Spolsky.
Thank you, through you, Mayor, and I assume directed to the CAO. Revimo, I think, hammered most of the questions, but the language that's being proposed, can you give me a ballpark of what's been copy-paste from mandatory and what's been specifically written for the town of Renfrew?
Yeah, thank you. So I can tell you with certainty that 323, 1A, B, and C come from the provisions of the, I'm going to say with certainty. I didn't actually draft this bylaw, I did review it, but I'm reasonably certain the wording and the language in A, B, and C reflect the actual Planning Act wording within sections 16 and 35, because that language looks to be very close. So I would say it was pulled directly from it. Everything from D, so provisions of the fire code, that would be something we put in. That's not in the Planning Act. Restrictions on EP zone, that's not in the Planning Act. We put that in there. F, with respect to minimum lot area and frontage requirements, that's in there. That's our provision. The parking spaces, that language for G, not directly from the Planning Act, but it reflects a requirement of the Planning Act. So everything after that, I would say that's they're provisions that we've included to try to integrate and try to account for potential issues that we anticipate with additional residential units. But with respect to the actual permission, a maximum of 2, a maximum of 1 in a single semi or multiple attached, where single semi are on the same. Yeah, so the language pertaining to the permission of units on the property, that would have come from the Planning Act. That was a very long-winded answer to your very simple question. I do apologize, but it's at the front end of the bylaw in particular. Thanks.
Thank you. And just one final, when it comes to the secondary buildings, there'll obviously be building permits. Is there development opportunities, development fee opportunities on secondary buildings or units that are being added? Just curious as the business side for the town of Renfrew.
Yeah, thank you. Unfortunately, we're not able legally to collect development charges on ARUs. That's specifically prohibited. Yeah, thank you.
Revimo?
Yes, thank you. I just had found my notes actually. So this bylaw, through you, your worship, to the CAO, so this bylaw and the provincial legislation, it does not in any way affect our minimum lot sizes?
No, it doesn't. The Planning Act does have other provisions related to that, but this bylaw does not pertain to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question is the, my apologies for the background noise, is J 45% of the total lot coverage? Is that something that can be appealed to the town for a change, or is that something that has to go to the land tribunal, or is that just 45% nothing?
You can always appeal. You can always apply for a variance if you want to increase that, but that is the maximum within the bylaw itself as of right.
Okay, thank you. And finally, does that cover the parking as well and the laneway entrance, all of those things?
No, it doesn't. So the definition of lot coverage is the portions of the lot that are covered by buildings and structures. So the parking area would not be included in that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I think I've exhausted my questions.
Any other questions from council? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you, council. Moving on to finance and corporate services. That the Committee of the Whole received the 2025 Development Charge Statement Report as information. Mover, please. Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor McWhorter, and I will turn it over to Director Hodge.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. So this is the annual development charge statement. This is done as a requirement of the Development Charges Act. It was previously prepared and presented in June a year ago, and it is to be sent to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing before July 15th, and it will also be posted on the town website. The statement attached has the opening balance, the amount of development charges collected in 2025, the amount utilized, and the closing balance as of December 31st, 2025. And it also has a breakdown of the commercial portion and the residential portion of the development charges collected and the interest earned on the balance of the development charges that are kept in the bank. And yeah, and it's an annual report, and you will see it again next year and the year after that.
Hey, any questions on the report? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Moving on to Development Charge Reduction Program. That the Committee of the Whole recommends that Renfrew Town Council direct staff to complete and submit a Development Charge Reduction Program application. Mover, please. Councilor McDonald, seconded by Councilor Sobalski, and I'll turn it back over to Director Hodge.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So the Development Charge Reduction Program, it's a quickly announced program from the province and the federal government. It was announced on June 1st, and it runs through June 19th. Its intention is to foster more residential housing growth, and it's formed an $8.8 billion funding amount available. The opportunity to apply for funding is for items that were identified in the town's most recent development charge background study, which was done in 2021. Those are typically done every 5 years. The next one is scheduled in our budget to be done this year as the updated development charge background study. For this program, it can fund up to 90% of DC eligible portion of the identified projects in the DC background study. The requirement of it is to reduce development charges that were in effect March 2026 by a level of 30 to 50% and maintain that reduction for 3 years. The town's already discounted their development charges in 2021 by 59%, so the criteria is already met. In this report, it will show amounts that were hoped to be collected at the full calculation from 2021, then the partial portions, and then the actual that's being collected, which is lower than that is, again. One quick note in this report, in the financial comment, I had shown two amounts that total 1.3 million. The second amount, where I had a typo where it said 653,744. It should have been, sorry, I have it here typed in as 635,810, and that still gives you the total of 1,319,310. We're asking for council direction regarding applying to this program, which has a deadline of 10 a.m. on June 19th. This program intends to have a review of the applications in July, and any that are approved would have a transfer payment agreement set to be in place in August. If the town does not become accepted or approved for this program, the DCs would be in effect as previous and as normal and moving forward as such. This program is a single intake that's being offered. It has to be projects listed in the DC study, as I mentioned, and it has to link with residential growth. You'd have until 2030 to start the project or projects, and you would have until 2035 to complete them. The town would be looking to fund an estimated 1.3 million of that, of the total of the two projects. And as I mentioned, the town is budgeted to do an updated DC background study in 2026 that would in theory take effect January 1st, 2027. That's still required to be updated to maintain development charges growth-based calculations, and it also establishes the commercial DC rates, which are a separate rate that are not affected by this reduction program. The program would have milestone funding, and it would be meeting those milestones and funded over a course of 10 years until 2035. And and I've attached the guidelines and the development charge background study to this report.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Hearing none, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. On to infrastructure, public works, salt management plan. That the committee of the whole received the salt management plan 2026 update report for information, and further that staff be directed to bring forward a revised salt management bylaw for council's consideration. Councillor Spolsky, did you have a question on that? I apologize, I didn't see your hand.
That's all right. It happened fast, Mayor Sidney. Sorry, I was just processing it. It happened quick. There was a lot of words there. I had a good understanding. I do believe that Treasurer Hodge answered most of the questions, but we didn't have any of these projects lined up currently for work as a current capital item for 2026, did we?
Who's answering?
No, we didn't. This is in our DC background study, so we didn't. These are not projects that are in the pipe for 2026 or in the budget. So if we were to be successful in this, we're not anticipating it immediately. Going to construction immediately, we have to do detailed design and whatnot. But no, this is not budgeted, so we would have to come to council for consideration if we were to be successful in this. Yeah.
Okay, and follow up. I know it's passed.
Yeah, sorry.
Do we have the allowable funds to fund this on our end if this is still successful? Understanding it's a great opportunity, but we have to make sure that we're protecting ourselves too with our financial and our financing background, that we have enough room to do these type of projects, although it may not happen right away. So just a little final question before it kind of gets passed.
No, it's a great question. So the program guidelines have kind of been rolling out, I'm going to say, a bit of an iterative basis from the province, but what we understand is that we have to keep our DCs reduced for a period of time, and it's 3 years, it's shown in the report, and then we have to fund a minimum of 10% of the capital costs. We're looking to explore options for the municipal portion that we have to contribute. We're very interested to know, and we anticipate that we're going to be able to have some conversations with the province through this process, and if we're successful about where we can pull that money from. So I don't think it's necessarily a question of, is this all going to come from reserves, or is this all going to come from, development charges, or where. We're kind of wondering, are there other options? Is there maybe public-private partnerships that we can enter into to have developers fund, our portion, or at least front-end it, and then they're refunded over time through front-ending agreement or an area-specific development charge. So we're trying to think somewhat creatively about how to handle our chunk of it. So we're hoping that some of those conversations can be fleshed out. Again, June 1st program announcement with very little information. AMO and the ministry kind of have rolled things out. There's been a couple of webinars to say, hey, this is how the program's going to work. Q&As recently rolling out. And then the application's due on Friday. So it's like we're going to put something in at council's pleasure, and if they want to throw some money our way through a transfer payment agreement, and through that there is likely going to be some dialogue as well. We're going to put in, we're going to apply, and there's probably going to be some discussions with the province about, this is actually what we're willing to fund you based on, and here's the situation, and here's the arrangement. So we're hopeful that those interactions are favorable, and we can figure out an arrangement that works for the town. Thank you.
Thank you for the additional backfill. Appreciate it.
Revimo, I see your hand up.
Yeah, sorry. Just to Councillor Sobolski's point, this does feel rushed. And we did identify those two projects as potential growth areas some time ago. And so fortunately, we were in the position to be able to throw them into this program. However, I think there needs to be plenty of follow-up conversation with the province and the federal government. 18 days to put together a application of this magnitude is way too tight. A cynical person, not myself of course, would suggest that they don't want to fund anything, or they want to only fund things that could be done as quickly as possible. And if you're not in the position of being able to complete an application, tough tushy. And so, I think we have to have a follow-up conversation after this is over, probably through AMO and FCM, saying, look, you cannot do this to small municipalities, or you have to break off a certain section of these grant programs to rural and small Ontario and rural and small Canada. So I agree with you, Councillor Cebulski. It's a little iffy as to how we've been brought into this and somewhat unnerving. Fortunately, we have the two projects readily identified in a couple servicing plans, and it has certainly helped us. Also, if you'll recall, when we did the Stewart Street extension, there was also the conversation with that pipe being big enough to take on that Pinnacle Hill development. So, I think we're well positioned by some foresight to be able to participate. Let's see what comes of it.
Perfect. Any other comments? It has already passed, so we're good? All right. Moving on to the next. And I do apologize, Councillor Cebulski. The Committee of the Whole received the Salt Management Plan 2026 update report for information, and further that staff be directed to bring forward a revised salt management bylaw for Council's consideration to reflect current practices and compliance with Environment Canada Code of Practice. Mover, please. Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor McWhirter, and I will turn it over to Director Bishop.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. So at the regular meeting of Council on January 28th, 2025, Council adopted the revised salt management plan, which had not been updated since 2008 prior to that. The salt management plan is intended to be a living document and requires ongoing review and annual reporting to Environment Canada. So staff have continued to complete the required annual reporting and review of the SMP in accordance with requirements. As part of this, staff annually review operational practices, identify opportunities for continuous improvement, and update the plan as required. This is attached as Appendix A, dated May 2026. And the plan is a living document subject to ongoing operational and regulatory requirements. So a revised bylaw should be brought forward to update this appropriately. Thank you.
Any questions from Council? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Oh, sorry, Reeve, did you have your question?
Just a couple observations. I really like this. I would point to section 9.2 with the bidders issue. Is it possible to do a joint tender with others? I know smaller municipalities have three sand sheds, and they get delivery broken down. I wondered if we could join one of them to be the fourth, or can we find it, get the equipment at a nearby pit, or sorry, the sand at a nearby pit, and use our own resources to bring it in. And these aren't questions that need an answer today because this is a living document. And 9.5 and 9.6, should we think about investing in the equipment? And we're likely to have a fire truck in the next few years that needs replacement, and take the tank off the back of it and put the necessary equipment on for pre-watering. So our investment is only the watering equipment and not the whole unit. And so that that's something to think about. And 9.7, I wasn't clear at 9.7. Does the infrastructure in the trucks shut off the salt machines when they're stopped at intersections, or start to decrease when they're coming up, or is there some way of doing that? Because on occasion in some roadways outside of our community, of course, you see piles of salt at the stop sign, so I'm curious about that. 9.9, are those fees part of our bylaw, fees and bylaw schedule? Because I didn't recall that, and should we include it? And then finally, number 12, would you consider a train-the-trainer model so that someone is always current and they can come back and conduct individual workshops for our staff, but maybe loop in some of the staffs from Horton, Admiston, Bromley, Greater Madawaska, that type of thing. You know, and I don't know if it would generate any revenue, but it would at the very minimum allow us to make sure we're current. Thank you for allowing me this. I appreciate it. And a great document.
Hey, do you want to address any of that?
Just want to say thank you for your comments, and I'll get back to you on those answers.
Perfect. Now, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Moving on to accessible parking. That the Committee of the Whole recommends that Renfrew Town Council direct staff to proceed with enhanced painting of accessible on-street parking spaces within the downtown core only through the town's contracted line painting program. Mover, please. Councilor McWhorter, second by Councilor Andrew Dick. And I'll turn it back over to Director Bishop.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. So at the regular meeting of Council on October 21st, 2025, Council directed staff to investigate partnering with Renfrew County Voices to allow volunteers from the organization to assist in painting accessible parking spots within municipal parking lots only, and that this initiative be considered as part of the 2026 Budget Committee discussions. So the town currently maintains approximately 25 accessible parking spaces within the downtown core, and additional 4 accessible parking spaces located in our parking lots. These include the new parking bylaw spots on Main Street. Our current practice is to line paint with standard pavement markings consisting of the accessibility symbol. Staff consulted with the town's line painting contractor regarding painting the spaces fully blue, as originally suggested. The contractor advised that fully painting these spaces would result in increased annual maintenance costs, as the painted surface is significantly larger and would require more frequent repainting due to fading and wear. Staff also reviewed the operational feasibility of volunteer participation. While this could reduce labor-related costs, the town would still be responsible for supplying the paint materials, traffic control, and overall coordination. In addition, much of the town's line painting program is completed overnight, and this is to minimize traffic disruptions and parking impacts within the downtown core. So this presents operational and safety challenges for volunteer participation. So the traffic marking and line painting tender included a provisional item for fully painted accessible parking spaces, including adjacent curb and sidewalk markings where applicable, and the estimated costs are included. So staff note that fully painted accessible parking spaces would improve visibility and may enhance accessibility awareness. However, this approach would also result in increased ongoing maintenance and repainting costs compared to the town's current practice. So option 1 is to proceed with enhanced painting of on-street parking spaces within the downtown core only. And that would mean fully blue painted spots in the downtown, mainly on Raglan Street. Option 2 is to proceed with the enhanced painting of the parking spaces within both municipal parking lots and accessible on-street parking. And option 3 is to maintain the town's current accessible parking space painting standard, which is just the symbol. So option 1, the painting would make these spaces more visible in a high traffic area of town. This would have a lower cost than expanding the program to municipal parking lots, but would still result in additional annual maintenance and repainting costs. Option 2, which would be including those municipal parking lots, this would result in the highest implementation and ongoing maintenance costs. And option 3 would avoid any additional costs associated with fully painting accessible parking spaces. However, the spaces would remain less noticeable. And that's, I believe, why this was brought to our attention. I will note that in talking to the contractor, they did not recommend the fully painted blue spaces due to the paint becoming slippery when wet. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.
Any questions from Council? Councillor Cebulski.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Sidney, and a little late, I guess, for me to throw a fourth option out there, but I'm curious what the cost would have been just for sidewalk curb, as it said, adjacent curb and sidewalk markings, if they were just highlighted blue on the sidewalk as a notation of brightness, but not the main parking space. So just 2 cents without a cost, but an idea.
Director Bishop?
Through you, Mayor. That could be a considered option, and if we want, that wouldn't be really part of the tender process with our contractor. If we were just painting the curb, we probably could figure something out for that.
Councilor McDonald?
Thank you, Mayor, through you. So we have on the budget for the 2026 budget, I think it was 90-some, I'm just trying to locate it now, 90-some thousand for it, and this is just going to be absorbed. So for the 25 spots, does that encompass all spots within the town? And the total price we're looking at is $4,375.
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, that $4,375 is for the fully painted spots, and that line item of $95,000 includes many items. It's all roadside maintenance, but line painting is included in that line.
Councilor Andrew Dick?
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, and through you. So the first question through you, Mayor, is why could we just have a timeline? I already know the answer, but I think the public should know why it took so long to get to where we are at tonight if the motion was put forward in October.
Director Bishop?
Through you, Mayor. So the tender previously posted was for a few years, and we had the same contractor doing that for a couple of years. So this year, once budget was passed, we had to re-tender, and it hadn't been done in a few years, so we had to review and revise all of the new painting spots in town or any of the new parking bylaw spaces. So then we were able to tender that once budget was passed and once that review happened. There are many other high priority projects that need to be tendered before this type of situation. So once we actually did post this tender, it just closed in May. So this is the first meeting we could have come to.
So thank you, Mayor Sidney, and thank you, Director Bishop, for your answer. So just we'll put it down in layman's terms here. I put the motion forward in October, and in the motion it stated to consider for the 2026 budget. And real quick, what month did we agree on the budget? February?
Yeah, February.
So February, so finally we got approval to move forward with possibly doing this. So let's just say the end of February, now we're into March. And like Director Bishop said, there's some higher tenders, procurement policies we have to go through. You know, we need to get our roads paved and all that stuff. So this kind of got bumped down the road because we can tender it, and then a week later, 2 weeks later, we have the answer, and it's only another week or two, and then we can get the spots painted if we decide to move forward. Would that be a fair analysis, kind of broken down?
Director Bishop?
Yes, that would be fair.
Okay, so could I continue, Mayor Sidney, if you don't mind? So I'm in favor of painting them all blue. For the reason, one, we have an organization in town that really wants to do this, and they really want it. It's not one said person, it's an organization, and it's not a hard request. And I believe, as council, we should help this along. In my opinion, a full blue spot would look nice. I do agree with Councillor Spolsky. We never did think about the paved sidewalks. That's actually a really good idea, and I have saw that in other municipalities. One thing that we have to make clear is the community that wants to get involved with their volunteers, they just want to do municipal parking lots. So yeah, we're going to shut half the parking lot down for a day, but think how much joy and happiness we're going to bring to a group of individuals that sometimes are lost in our community, and we have a volunteer base that's running this organization, and they're willing to do the hard work to get this done. So that's another big win for me, thinking of these individuals who, again, sometimes get lost in our community, are going to be part of our community. They're going to be painting part of our community, And do you know how proud this organization would be every time they walk by? I know it's something simple and we look at it and we're like, yeah, whatever. But they're going to look at it and they're going to remember for years to come, I painted that spot. And something so simple might mean so much to this organization. It's in the budget, the money's there. One thing I do want to stress is the contractor stated to Director Bishop that it would be slippery when wet. My issue with that is why does every municipality pretty much in Renfrew, pretty much in Ontario have a pride crosswalk that is not slippery when wet? Or on Remembrance Day, they're starting to get big. They're not slippery when wet. So I just don't understand. Maybe it's a different paint, but I'm sure they can find the same paint that they use with the Pride crosswalks and the Remembrance Day crosswalks. So I implore my fellow council members to go with painting the full spots. Yes, it's a little bit more money, but you got to remember we're serving the entire community of Renfrew, not just a certain group or this certain group, and I just think this can all work out in the long run. I think I've said enough, and I think you all know where I stand. Thank you.
Revimo?
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree with painting the whole spots. No ifs, ands, or buts. I would like to go with the contractor simply because there's a warranty issue, and then there's also an issue should there be a slip and fall or the paint doesn't last and somebody doesn't see it and something happens and we get sued, then we can pass some of the suit on to the contractor. So I'm more inclined to do that. And then to Director Bishop, with this contract, does it include the painting of the curb by the contractor?
Director Bishop?
Through you, Mayor. I'd have to check on that. We didn't specifically have that line item in the tender, but it may have been discussed with the contractor.
Okay, could I suggest if it's not, to Councillor Andrew Dick's point, maybe that's something that we could get our volunteers to do, because I really want to, I like the fact that they want to invest, and if that's something they would consider, or is there another project that we can point them towards where they can take on as their own? Because I really like the idea they want to be invested in the community and want to be able to walk around, because I think we all like to walk around and point to things we're involved in. So I'd like to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sabalski.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, and to the Director, I assume. So the very final paragraph above the cost submission, it does suggest that the tender includes provisional item for fully painted accessible parking spaces, including adjacent curb and sidewalk markings where applicable. So it does look like we've captured it, but to facilitate Revimos and especially Councillor Andrew Dick's request, if that's something that maybe we can leave off the docket for the group to help, it's a good idea.
Councillor Andrew Dick.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, and just through you, regarding Councillor Emo's comments, I do agree. I never thought of it that way, where if we have a group of volunteers paint something and something happens, then we're in a whole lot of trouble. So, suggestion. The organization needs to be involved in this. They really do. Maybe we can talk to the volunteers if we can find something else, but a suggestion, maybe we could have Gerald Hanneman. I'm sorry, he just popped in my head because he's the supervisor of, or the manager or whatever his job title is in Public Works. Maybe supervise the volunteers with the organization. They can paint it, and then we can have the company come in and finish it off, if that's a possibility. I don't know. I'm just trying to find a solution here because I really think there is one.
CAO?
Yeah, thanks. I'm gonna suggest that if it's okay with you, Councillor, the idea of the curb being painted, I think that's a good middle ground, because I think it gets them engaged in the process, while at the same time, the high traffic area and the portion that, you know, we need to ensure, because other considerations is the fact that we do the painting of parking spaces at night. And so when there's no one parked there, right? So having that done at night with volunteers is a little bit tricky, probably some workplace safety considerations. I think that if we do the curb, I think that probably makes some sense. It's something you can probably do during the day, and it's a fairly low risk, I think, to the Reeves point. If we get some flaking on the curb, not as big of a deal as if we lose, we don't have the reflectivity, or we get flaking on the space itself. So I think that would be my suggestion. Lots of conversation around the table, but I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Councillor Deck.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, and through you. And I think I very much could lean towards that. I'm just trying to think of the municipal parking lot. There's one behind Aikenhead's drugstore. Are there accessible parking in there? There has to be, eh?
Yeah, there is.
So there would be bricks there that they could paint. And then I know behind Scotiabank, I think there's 2 or 3 there, and the sidewalks there, so they'd have some spots to paint. What are your thoughts, Councillor McDonald?
Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Mayor, through you. I'm in total agreement. I like where you're going with this, and I think we should include the group somehow.
All right, so I'm going to read the motion again, that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Renfrew Town Council direct staff to proceed with enhanced painting of accessible on-street parking spaces within the downtown core only through the town's contracted line painting program. Should this not be successful, another motion could be brought forward. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, and I just want to confirm, I heard it, but I just want to say it out loud. So right now we're voting on just doing Main Street only fully blue. Municipal parking lots, we're not painting fully blue, and I'm in hopes CAO Withers is going to reach out to this organization and have a conversation. Director Bishop is going to reach out to this organization to come up with a solution to involve this organization. Is that correct?
Yeah, so basically we're going to need direction. So as it states right now.
This is just a report.
Yeah. See, clerk.
Through you, Mayor. So as Mayor Sidney has advised, the motion's on the table as it is. If that is the will of council to move forward with that, then that vote can be taken. Separate direction could be given by council with a motion on the floor to direct staff to engage with the volunteer group, to identify a curb painting program, but that would be a direction and it would be required by council.
And it also does not include the parking lot. That's right. Councillor McDonald.
That's where I'm going with this, Mayor, through you. So if this gets defeated, because this is just municipal roadways, then we can bring another motion forward that might address some of Councillor Dick's issues. Is that where we're going with this?
Okay.
Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Sidney. So yes, the motion currently on the floor it is on the floor, so it needs to be voted on. Should it fail, there was another option in the report that could be put forward, which included both the roadway as well as the municipal parking lots. Again, that could be put on the floor as an option for council to consider. I would say separately, it might be worth considering direction to staff to work with the volunteer group to, again, develop a program. But I do think, based on discussion, the line painting of the spaces directly versus to be handled by the line painting contractor, and that the curbs be something can be considered with the volunteer program. So you may want to consider those two items separately.
Councillor Anderdick.
Through you, Mayor, I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this. We want this one defeated then and move on with a motion.
We are going to vote on this motion as read.
I'm just being honest.
And you vote the way you vote the way
Am I right?
you want to vote.
Okay, thanks.
But you vote the way you want to vote.
Yes, sir.
Based on the motion that's on the floor
Yes,
now.
Mayor Sidney.
Including every other councillor vote the way you want to vote as the motion reads. So any other discussion on this motion? So I'll read it again. That the Committee of the Whole recommends that Renfrew Town Council direct staff to proceed with enhanced painting of accessible on-street parking spaces within the downtown core only through the town's contracted line painting program. We have a mover, we have a seconder. Any other questions? All in favor? Any opposed? That is defeated unanimously. Now, Councillor Anderdick, would you like to put a motion on?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mayor Sidney, for the opportunity to put a motion on the floor. I would like to do what we said we wanted to do during that debate.
I believe that's option 2.
Yes, and I think Councillor McDonald wants to add something to my motion. Maybe?
Thank you, Councillor.
File the IC complaint on me, McDonald.
No, and I like your approach, Clerk, with we direct staff to engage with the group to see what we can come up with common ground.
Through you, Mayor Sidney. We may want to deal with one motion at a time.
Because that would be direction. Okay. So the second motion is that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Renfrew Town Council direct staff to proceed with enhanced painting of accessible parking spaces within both municipal parking lots and accessible on-street parking spaces within the downtown core through the town's contracted line painting program. So that includes the parking lots and the main street. Mover, Councillor Anderdick. Seconded by Councillor McDonald. Any further discussion on this? Councillor McCorder.
Should that not include mentioning working with the group?
No, that's the next one. It's different.
That's a different
Separate,
motion?
yeah.
Okay.
So any further discussion on the second motion? All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Councillor Anderdick.
Mayor Sidney, I'd like to put a motion on the floor where council directs staff to engage in a conversation with the organization to have their volunteers and the individuals paint the curbs on the accessible parking spots that are safe in the parking lots or come to some sort of common ground. Thank you.
I'll just give the clerk a second.
Through you, Mayor Sidney, and just for clarification, because I'm hoping somebody knows this answer, is the name of the volunteer, or name of the group that is wishing to engage?
Renfrew County Voices. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Sidney. So I think I'm missing something here, but that that Committee of the Whole directs staff to engage with Renfrew County Voices to have their volunteers work with town staff to paint identified curbs located within municipal parking lots.
Moved by Councillor Anderdick, second by Councillor McDonald. Any other questions, comments? All in Reeve, do you have a comment? Okay. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Moving on to scope of change for Hall Avenue reconstruction. That the Committee of the Whole recommends that Renfrew Town Council authorize staff to proceed with additional geotechnical investigations and associated changes to the scope of work for the Hall Avenue reconstruction design project. Mover, please. Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Sobalski, and I'll turn it over to Manager Shower.
Through you, Mayor. So back in 2022, the design began for the resurfacing of Hall Avenue from Bar to Gillen. This included a non-intrusive review of the roadway using ground penetrating radar. Later in the design process, the roadway cross-section was revised to incorporate a MUP and replace the sanitary sewer to increase the capacity. As a result of the design changes, the original recommended mill and pave approach was no longer feasible. And the new approach, or the approach was revised to include full asphalt removal, placement of new granulars, and 2 lifts of asphalt. This was based on the assumption that the existing road subgrade was adequate. Based on some of the town's recent experience with some infrastructure projects, we now feel the importance of confirming subsurface conditions prior to detailed design. Due to the above, a scope change, including additional geotechnical investigation consisting of boreholes, is being proposed to confirm the existing pavement structure and subgrade conditions. So we're putting forward 2 options. One is that committee recommends to council to proceed with the additional geotechnical investigations associated with the scope change. The second option would be to not proceed with the additional geotechnical information. Some of the impacts, the scope changes for an additional $51,000, but it would give the department the information required to make more accurate design decisions. Alternatively, if we don't proceed, there would be an increased risk during the construction stage.
Councillor Underdick.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, and through you. So my only concern is, just to clarify, JP2G is the one requesting this?
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, so JP2G was hired as the designing consultant for the project.
Okay.
I guess kind of more into the background, like I said, originally, the project itself was less intrusive, so they conducted originally a less intrusive kind of subsurface investigation, but due to changes in the scope, they've now requested to receive more information, or I guess more funding so that they could do more investigations.
Just give me a second to gather my thoughts, Mayor Sidney. Yeah, I'm going to get sued, so I got to be careful how I say this.
Do you want a minute for your thoughts?
Yeah, just it's frustrating because we have companies that we hire and they give us a quote and then it just seems every time, and it's kind of the same all the time. And this is not on town staff. This is not. We hire these companies, they give us a quote, they start doing the job, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we need another $50,000 because there might be more to the story than we know. Well, why are we hiring them in the first place if they don't know in the first place? That's frustrating. These companies are paid a lot of money to a job, and it just always seems they're coming back for more money. And then, if they do the investigation, they say we're good to go, then we go down the road and something happens, not our fault. That's not on us. You know what I mean? There's no accountability to these companies that charge so much money. It's the most frustrating thing in municipal politics, and I don't know why we continue, not staff, I'm not saying staff, I'm just generally saying why, because ultimately council is the one that makes the decision. Why do we keep going back to the same companies that keep upcharging us? That needs to be fixed. Anyways, that's all I have to say. Thanks. This has nothing to do with staff. This is just my general frustration of the whole way the system works, and it's wrong. It's so wrong.
Acting CEO, you want to jump in?
Sure. Just thank you, and thank you, Councillor, for the remarks. Certainly appreciate the sentiment there. With respect to what's being requested, so this is really just a matter of, do we want more assurance in regards to the subgrade conditions? My understanding reviewing the report is they use GPR, ground penetrating radar, to investigate the subsurface. Obviously a very different, kind of a, doesn't go as far as boreholes, I guess is what is being, what's being communicated. And so this is just an added level, an added layer of, I think there was an appreciation of what happened with Stevenson Crescent. Stevenson Crescent obviously kind of was a bit of a surprise with respect to the subgrade. So no question, it's a change order, it's a scope change, more money. But I think what staff are proposing, and certainly appreciate the this isn't a staff thing. We're not necessarily, we're not trying to make things I guess more costly, but being that this is something that was identified through Stevenson, the consultant, I think rightly, just kind of said, hey, we want to probably belt and suspenders here. We've got ground penetrating radar. Let's put a couple boreholes down. You're never going to get to the point where you kind of look under the hood and see exactly what's underground. Even your borehole spacing is 70 meters, 90 meters spacing. Typically, you're not going to hit every problem spot, but you're going to get fairly close. And so I think that's the rationale, but certainly appreciate the sentiment. We are making every effort to ensure that these projects come in at or under budget. Thank you.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Potentially towards the sale, is this a new direction we're going in terms of trying to get another layer of due diligence, which is I think you spoke about? And does it align with best practices, maybe with other organizations or townships, to have this extra layer of due diligence? I understand this might be a one-off because of the history of Stevenson, but is this something we're looking at moving forward?
Yeah, thank you. Through you. I'm going to wade into some waters here, but so ground penetrating radar, my understanding is initially shave and pave, initially just removal of asphalt, maybe regrading granulars and replacement of asphalt. Now we're talking about full depth reconstruction, some sections, sewer work. We're doing linear assets, so we need to go a little deeper to see exactly what we're working with. Is kind of the rationale there. So I think in where it was anticipated that we're just really looking at peeling asphalt, ground penetrating radar, and I don't know exactly how deep it is, but it's not going to be borehole depth by any stretch. So I think that's probably the rationale. We're going deeper. They're telling us we should go deeper with some of the investigations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to follow up. So with your classic shave and pave, this additional cost wouldn't be necessary.
I'm going to ask the director and the manager to fill in the gaps here. My assumption is that GPR is cheaper. You don't need a drill rig. It's less intrusive. It's more cost effective if you're pretty sure. But if you're not sure about subgrade conditions, and you might be dealing with clay, Stevenson, with very minimal granular, like engineered granulars involved, you probably want to talk about boreholes. But if there are any things I'm missing there, maybe the manager can fill in, or the director.
Through you, Mayor. It's kind of project-based, and it's kind of also evolved around risk versus reward. Obviously the more intrusive work you're doing, the usually better idea it is to get more solid data. In response to like some of our shave and pave, some projects where we're pulverizing or milling, and if we don't feel there's any subsurface conditions existing, there may not be. I'll say that's a place where it may be worth the risk of not paying for the investigation, because because it's our professional opinion that it's not required. With the project of this scope, with the scope change in it from going from, as CAO said, from a shave and pave essentially to a full reconstruction. Again, like it was already stated, the ground penetrating radar is kind of a lighter duty subsurface inspection, where the boreholes will be more valuable and more accurate. And again, this work is mostly almost like a preventative treatment. It's to give ourselves and the contractor ourselves and our consultant better information so that we can develop the specs better, so that the hope would be that there'd be less likelihood for a change order during the construction, which we feel is a larger risk without the geotechnical investigation.
Reeve Emo has hand up. Reeve?
Thank you very much. Frankly, if this report had come forward without this, I would have asked for it, because I think what we learned on Stevenson was we don't know what's in the ground, and some of our older plans aren't as detailed as they could be. The second thing is trucks are heavier than they were before. There's a lot more truck traffic. We've got some industry along haul, and we'll have more truck traffic in the future. It'll be going faster, it'll likely be heavier, and there'll be more volume there. So just shaving and paving was not going to be the answer. What you'd end up seeing would be traffic ruts, 4 of them, with the yellow line down the middle, 2 on each side, the width of the carriage of the trailers in a couple of years, and a break down the middle. So we'd be back doing it again. The town would be back doing it again fairly quickly in the future. So I think it's important. It also talks about the upgrade of the sanitary system. I'd hate to see us have somebody come along and offer up some kind of a project, and we'd have to tear that all up and put in a bigger diameter pipe. And so I think on those issues alone, because it's a fairly significant route for us, and will be even larger route, a more significant route in the future, we have to construct it properly, otherwise it's going to cost us money. Should note that we asked for the change to add the multi-use pathway along there, with the idea that it extends all the way out as Hall Street goes out, and it's going to come out right in behind Canadian Tire and Walmart and areas like that. So we've changed our request from the first time they did the work, and we've also likely changed our expectations because of what happened on Stevenson, and it's a relatively low weighted traffic in that community, and look at the mess that was under that pavement. So I recognize there's an additional cost. We changed the rules. I would like to have seen them sit down and say, I have a hard time defending consultants. But I would have liked to have had them sit down and say, okay, it's going to cost X number of dollars. We'll eat half, you eat half. I feel better with that, because that's a true partnership rather than a scoop and pay. So, I struggled with it last night while I was reading it. I'm okay with it because I think we've driven this. We've driven this recommendation. So thank you for your time.
Mr. Anderdick.
Thank you, Mayor Sidney, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk again. So there's a couple things in play right here. So staff did not report to us tonight that we requested this, as Reeve Emo just said. That was never told to me once tonight until I heard Reeve Emo say it.
Reeve?
No, I'm sorry, Councillor Dick. I either spoke too quick or I misspoke, but what I meant was I think the Stevenson exercise drove us to, the questions that we asked in public probably drove this, and I would have asked for more information tonight.
Okay, so thank you for that. Thank you for that explanation. And I do agree. Like, we cannot have another Stevenson Crescent issue. That I get, totally understand that. So I was going to divulge into a longer debate, but after Reeve Emo just said what he said, I understand it, not happy about it, in favor of it, because we can't have another Stevenson Crescent. Simple as that. Thank you.
Councillor McCorder.
Thank you, Mayor. So to Councillor Dick's point, we did run into a number of issues over the last few years where we were over like $1 million on project. It was very frustrating. We ran into the Stevenson issue. And there was a really good discussion, and Councillor Sobrowski brought up the fact that the engineering company only used 3 of the holes for the analysis when they drilled 8, I believe. So we had a really robust discussion about going forward. It would be worth the extra money to drill the extra holes, make sure it was done properly, than to run into another $1 million debacle. So I understand what my councillors, this is exactly what we need to do, in my opinion. I thank staff for being diligent and making sure we get the right answers as best we can without a magic ball that tells us our future. But we did discuss this, and this is what we asked staff to do if it was needed, and I am totally in favor of this.
Any other questions? Councillor Spolsky.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Last to the table. Most of my comments have been said, but I guess making sure we work on lessons learned. Stevenson Crescent did have boreholes done. Stevenson Crescent didn't have all the boreholes represented, and the information I feel maybe presented from our paid consultants wasn't appropriate and fair, so it caught us into a bad spot. I do believe the change order at Stevenson Crescent was around $300,000 extra for the omission of these boreholes, so a $50,000 up front gives us the information and the knowledge so that when we do take this to tender, that we know what's under the ground and we can make an accurate assessment so that we do come in on budget for the physical construction. This is an easy $50,000. Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm just going to jump in real quick. I am definitely not an engineer. I'm definitely not a consultant. I'm definitely not even in that wheelhouse. But I will almost guarantee you there's going to be a problem under that road. So I would rather spend 50 now and save 300. So that's my view. Revimo?
Thank you, and I'm sorry, I meant to add, when we get to the Algonquin Trail, where it intersects, when they're doing the design, can they remember to go 3 or 4 meters off of Hall Street onto the Algonquin Trail with concrete, like they did up on Gillen? And also, could you explore going just a little wider, because it sometimes looks like that pathway, the concrete pathway, is not as wide as it could be, and it could be just my eye. If you think it's wide enough, go right ahead with it. But it's just 2 things if you could take a look at. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Moving on to Legislative Services, Commemorative Naming Rights Policy Review. That the Committee of the Whole recommend that Renfrew Town Council approve the recommended changes to the commemorative naming policy, and further that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward for adoption. Mover, please. Councillor McWhorter, second by Councillor MacDonald, and I'll turn it over to Director Ehret.
Okay, so in accordance with the approved 2026 review schedule and the corporate work plan, oh wait, sorry, is that the right one? This is what happens when you have multiple reports sitting on. There we are. Okay, sorry about that. We'll start again. So again, still with regards to the review schedule and the corporate work plan, the commemorative naming policy has been brought forward for review. The commemorative naming policy establishes the framework for the town to recognize individuals, families, organizations, and groups who have made significant and lasting contributions to the community through the naming of municipal lands, facilities, and town-owned assets. The comprehensive review of the commemorative naming policy was undertaken to modernize its structure, improve clarity, and ensure alignment with current legislative requirements, as well as kind of a contemporary municipal governance practices. So the proposed revisions do not introduce any new legislation requirements, but rather recognizes and clarifies and strengthens the existing policy that's already in place. The revised policy also affirms council's decision-making process authority, but delegates the administrative responsibility to the clerk and provides a clear framework for within how commemorative naming requests are evaluated and brought forward, and how they can be done so in a fair and orderly manner. The red line version of the original policy has been provided for council's reference and attached for your review.
Any questions from council? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you, council. Moving on. that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Renfrew Town Council approve the recommended changes to the Records and Information Management Policy and further that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward for adoption. Mover, please. Councilor McWhorter, seconded by Revimo, and I'll turn it back over to Director Barrett.
Okay, so this policy has also been brought forward as part of the 2026 review schedule and corporate work plan. The town maintains a records and information management policy which establishes a consistent, transparent, and legally compliant framework for creating, management, and retention, access, and disposal of municipal records in all formats. The existing records and information management policy was originally adopted in 2023. Since that time, best practices related to municipal record governance has been identified, particular areas such as electronic records management, duty to document expectations, privacy protection, access to information, and third-party custody and control of records. In addition, guidelines through the AMCTO emphasizes the importance of clearly distinguishing between council governance role, the clerk's statutory authority, and the operational procedures required to support effective records management. Overall, there's been no introduction of new legislation. However, the extent of the revisions, you'll notice that a red line comparison has not been provided. There was kind of a substantial overhaul of the entire policy. I would say that I've attached the previous policy for council's reference, but then the new version of the policy, just so you have a comparable of the two. The original policy, like I said, is a reference only, and re-looking at the approach is kind of how we adopted it, plus also using examples and talking with other municipalities across Ontario to really develop a policy that is substantial, provides clear guidance, and a clear path forward. So overall, this records and information management policy is intended to enhance accountability, reduce operational risk, support access to information and privacy compliance, and provide both staff and council with a clear and reliable framework for managing municipal records, and especially as we increase with the complexity and digital operations and the environment overall.
Any questions from council? Councilor McWhorter.
Through you, Mayor, thank you for the clerk. I think I'm reading this wrong. Under background, the first paragraph, on December 9th, 2026, Council further ratified the 26 policy review. Is that getting ahead of ourselves? Or the mistake on there should be 2025?
He is right, yes. So that is with regards to the overall council policy, and yes, it was December 9, 2025 that council ratified the 2026 policy review schedule. My apologies.
Revimo.
Two questions, please. Thank you, Your Worship, through you. It doesn't say anything here about our security cameras. So do we have a separate policy for that? Or for, I believe there was some discussion at one point about the Police Services Board and cameras. What is our, or is there a separate policy? And then the last thing is, what happens if somebody wants our records for some kind of a court action or a criminal action? Do we require them to go to court, or do we just hand them over? Those kinds of things. Thank you.
Clerk.
Through you, Mayor. So to answer your first question, the town does have a corporate video surveillance policy. So that is a separate policy that we do have, and that we have updated, I believe, in 2024 when cameras were installed at the MyFM Center. At this time, we have no other cameras. And then also to your second question, any access requests to information, so whether that is an individual requesting information or through the court system, there is a process that is undertaken. If it's litigation. Of course, we're going to get a court order and court proceedings on how to handle those documents and what to provide and how to provide them. If it's an individual asking for access request, then again, that's governed through legislation through the Municipal Freedom of Information Act, and information on how to file those kind of what we classify as Freedom of Information requests are identified on our website, and it's a formal request through the town.
Revimo?
Yes, thank you. So if it was a litigation matter, how do we know it's a litigation matter and it's not me just asking for the information as a private citizen? Is there a means of making sure that the information is let out through the proper channels and with the sign-offs? Thank you.
Clerk?
Again, no information is released without properly going through a formal request. If it is any individual asking, then they are to file an FOI or Freedom of Information request or an access request. If it is a court order, that is typically a written document that's received and stamped by the court and provided directly to the town, which is typically then handed over to our legal counsel, and we're directed through our legal counsel.
Okay. Reeves, good? Any other questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Moving on to that the Committee of the Whole recommend that Renfrew Town Council establish a joint elections compliance audit committee for the 2026 to the 2030 term, and that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward to adopt the terms of reference and confirm the recommended member appointments. Mover, please. Councilor McWhorter, second by Councilor McDonald, and I'll turn it back over to Director.
Okay, so Section 88.37 of the Municipal Elections Act 1996 requires all municipalities and school boards in Ontario to establish a compliance audit committee prior to October 1st in an election year. The committee is responsible for considering applications where an eligible elector believes on a reasonable grounds that a candidate or a registered third party has contravened the campaign finance provision of the Act. All election candidates and registered third parties are required to file provincially prescribed financial statements with the clerk detailing their campaign funding activities. So if an elector believes that a contravention has occurred, the application for a compliance audit is submitted to the committee for consideration, and the clerk is required to also report to the committee where a contributor appears to have exceeded contribution limits. So a compliance audit committee is appointed for each four-year term of council and is considered complete at the end of each term. As such, a successor committee must be established by October 1st in the year of a regular municipal elections. As we are coming up to that time, this is why this report has come forward. And I know we're prior to October 1st, however, we like to do things early. So for the previous two municipal election cycles, the town of Renfrew has partnered with the city of Pembroke, the township of Laurentian Valley, and the township of Whitewater Region to establish a joint election audit committee. This collaborated approach has allowed the partnering municipalities to appoint qualified professionals with familiarity to municipal election campaign finances and kind of promote a consistent, efficient, and impartial representation across the region. Staff are proposing that we continue with this joint model for the 2026 to 2030 term, and the recommended individuals, which you'll see in the report, were assessed based on their knowledge of municipal election and campaign financial rules, relevant experience, both professional, analytical, and decision-making abilities. They have in some cases have worked on the committee in years past, and overall staff are satisfied with the recommended members for all four, and in joint partnership with the municipalities, as I noted before. And we also believe as staff that all recommended appointees are eligible under the Municipal Elections Act. So in addition to the member appointment, the attached terms of reference, which are attached in the report, are also being proposed for adoption through bylaw, and that will formally establish the Joint Elections Compliance Audit Committee. Similar to other terms of reference where council's seen in the past, it outlines the mandate, the roles and responsibility, the time frame, and kind of the overall governance and their like I said, their overall responsibility to handle applications as they are received in.
Any questions? Hearing none. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, council. And next. That the Committee of the Whole recommend that Renfrew Town Council authorize the execution of a shared service agreement with the County of Renfrew for economic development services, and that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward to council consideration and adoption. Mover, please. Councillor McWhorter, seconded by Councillor Sobalski, and I'll turn it back over to Director Aaron.
Thank you, Mayor. On March 2nd, 2026, the Mayor issued a mayoral decision, which was Mayoral Decision 2026-2, which was circulated to Council and made available to the public. The decision addressed organizational changes that were arising from the departure of the Community and Recreation Service Director, and was intended to ensure continuity of operations, to maintain service levels and support efficient administration during that period of transition. So among the matters that were addressed in the mayoral decision was a realignment of economic development related functions overall as part of the corporation, which included business attraction, promotion, tourism, development, and so as part of that, those responsibilities were kind of realigned with existing staff. However, in the last few months and part of that overall review, we do believe that while the redistribution has worked very well across the different roles, providing a supportive relationship with the County of Renfrew is beneficial, both on a as needed basis for additional help and support, but also expertise and training opportunities. So the proposed shared agreement with the County of Renfrew does bring forward kind of a formalized agreement. It'll be as an as needed basis and based on an hourly allocation to that. And again, this is to help support staff and moving certain projects forward.
Any questions? Review?
Yes, I was wondering about under number 5, the responsibility of the services provider, possibly a button that shows it does not negate what is normally conducted by the Economic Development Division, because the Economic Development Division, I believe Mr. Waibu and maybe somebody else, conduct visits to industry and businesses already in the town of Renfrew. So I don't want to see that disappear and we end up paying for it, because that's a piece of what we already pay for as part of our levy. So if there's the means of tracking what they've done over the last 5 years and have an average, and work that out. And the other piece is, I'm hopeful this doesn't include Enterprise Renfrew County, because that's an entirely different organization with their own visits and training. So if there's a way of differentiating between those two, just to be clear, it may be helpful.
Clerk?
Through you, Mayor. I will say your comments are absolutely noted, and we'll have further discussion. As this bylaw was, the service agreement was to come forward next week as part of the regular council meeting. If I'm not able to get a response or any adjustments at that time, then just note that the bylaw will come forward in August instead.
Any other questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, council. There is nothing from the Office of the CAO. Now, Renfrew Town Council rise from Committee of the Whole. Mover, please. Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Andrew Dick. All in favor? We are now out of the Committee of the Whole. Moving on to external boards and committees. Reeve, I just have a question for you for F1 to F3, just keeping in respect to the fact that you're sitting in a vehicle. Do you want to put those over to next week to speak about, or you're more than welcome to do it, but I just, you know.
No, I would like to put it over to next week simply because I'm balancing 2 screens and a phone trying to catch everything. So
That's kind of what I figured.
Thank you.
All right. Can we just do that?
I'll just defer.
Okay. All right, F4.
Oh, can we deal with F4, yeah?
Yep. Renfrew Hydro shareholders summary, Q1. Councillor Spolsky.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor Sidney. Again, I keep these updates short and brief. Councillor McWhirter and I were there for Q1. It was a good briefing. Renfrew Hydro has a lot of good capital projects planned. There's really good news coming out of for additional capital works that's being asked of Renfrew Hydro, so it's turning into already be a successful start to the season. Financially, we're hitting our goals, etc. So it was a good Q1 report. We have our AGM coming up shortly, which will be a good recap of 2025. Thanks.
Any questions for Councillor Zabowski? Hearing none. Going on to G.1. That Renfrew Town Council directs staff to meet with the Renfrew Recreation Fundraising Group to discuss the current memorandum of understanding and bring forward recommendations for further improvement. Mover, please. Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Andrew Dick, and duly noted that this is the one that Councillor McWhirter did declare a conflict of interest and has moved away from the table. So, so the motion is the Renfrew Town Council directs staff to meet with the Renfrew Recreation Fundraising Group to discuss the current memorandum of understanding and bring forward recommendations for further improvement. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Renfrew Power Generation. The Renfrew Town Council directs staff to initiate communication with Renfrew Power Generation regarding the property municipally known as 200 Stewart Street in accordance with the Town of Renfrew's surplus of land policy, and that staff report back to Council with the findings and recommendations to Council's consideration. Mover, please. Councillor Andrew Dick, second by Councillor McDonald. Any questions, comments? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Bear with me. Whereas municipalities in Ontario are currently required to levy property taxes based on property assessments from 2026, now over a decade old, and whereas the continued pause in reassessment has resulted in increased disparities between assessed values and current market conditions, contributing to inadequacies among property owners and across property classes, and whereas outdated assessments data limits the Town of Renfrew's ability to ensure fair, equitable taxation and may impact local economic development, investment decisions, and long-term financial planning, and whereas municipalities, including the Town of Renfrew, rely on a predictable and accurate assessment base to respond to ongoing financial pressures such as inflation, labor costs, and service delivery demands, and whereas the absence of a defined timeline for reassessment introduced uncertainty for municipalities, residents, and the business community, now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Renfrew supports the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus resolution entitled Ontario Most Outdated Property Reassessment in Canada, a call to return to property tax reassessment cycle, and that the Council of the Town of Renfrew requests that the Government of Ontario commit to a clear and timely return to the property assessment cycle, and that the province provide municipalities with a defined timeline and transparent plan for implementing regular and predictable reassessments, and further that the province work in collaboration with the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation to ensure assessments are timely, accurate, and reflective of current market conditions, and further that a copy of this resolution be attached, letter be circulated to the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Peter Belafavi, Minister of Finance, Billy Deneau, MPP, Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke, and Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, and the County of Renfrew. Mover, please. Reeve Emo, second by Councillor McDonald. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? That's carried. Correspondence, anybody want to discuss anything in those correspondence? Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Mayor. With regard to H3, in terms of a letter for looking for greater funding for fire services in Ontario, the REEF, I think, touched upon this earlier. Is this something that we want to look at in terms of forwarding a correspondence to the provincial government with regard to increased fire services funding?
Through you, Mayor. So a motion can,
Oh, sorry, Reeve. Reeve, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much to Councillor McDonald. I think this is very important because we all have fire master plans. There is increasing expectation from the ministry about training, and we may, as our town grows, have to depend more and more on our volunteer forces, which will require training, and it takes a lot of their time to train. And so there's likely going to have to be backfill for them in their home employment situations. The other piece is with the closing of the college in Muskoka, I believe it was, that's made it a little more difficult to train. And finally, as our rural municipalities around us may suffer some struggles with getting enough manpower because their workforce is graying. And with the additional strain on training, it's discouraging some members from new members from joining and some older members from leaving because they don't want to leave their community short. But at some point, that's going to fall on the people that have reciprocity and mutual aid agreements with them. So I think, strategically, this makes a lot of sense for us to support it because fiscally we may need it, but definitely our neighbors will need it fiscally. And if they don't get it, we may end up paying in the long run. So I'd like to see us go forward with something on this. Thank you.
So would somebody like to put a motion forward to do this?
I would, Your Worship, if it's okay, that we support the letter by the municipality or the town of Plimpton, Wyoming, regarding support for sustainable provincial grant funding for fire services in Ontario. And I would add that we add MPP Billy Deneau to the list that are contained in the original motion. Thank you.
Okay, so the clerk actually just threw one up here. I'll read it and see if you're okay with it. The Renfrew Town Council directs staff to bring forward a letter of support for sustainable provincial grant funding for fire services in Ontario. That.
Very good. Very good. Much better than I could have done.
And we'll make sure that the appropriate people get the right letter. All right, so moved by Reeve Emo, seconded by Councillor McDonald. Any further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Confirmation of minutes. That the Renfrew Town Council confirm the minutes of the regular meeting of council dated May 26, 2026, the regular meeting of closed dated May 26, 2026, the special meeting of council dated June 2nd, 2026, and the closed meeting minutes of May 26, 2026 and June 2nd, 2026. Understanding they remain confidential. Mover, please. Councillor Andrew Dick, second by Councillor McWhorter. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Matters arising from Committee of the Whole. The Renfrew Town Council adopt the final resolutions considered Committee of the Whole on May 26, 2026. 1. The Renfrew Town Council award engineering services for the water treatment plant filter rehabilitation to J.L. Richards in the amount of $174,274 plus HST. 2. That Renfrew Town Council proceed with the implementation of a northbound left turn signal at the intersection of Raglan Street South and Renfrew Avenue West in 2026 as a pilot project, and further that the funds be utilized through year-end department or corporate surplus. 3, the Renfrew Town Council approve the memorandum of understanding between the town of Renfrew and the Renfrew County ATV Club for the purposes of parking for special events at Mattaway Park, and further that the associated bylaw be brought forward for adoption. 4, that Renfrew Town Council authorize staff to proceed with award of the miscellaneous roads rehabilitation project to D-Rock Paving in the amount of $964,341.06, excluding HST. The Renfrew Town Council, number 5, that Renfrew Town Council approve the recommended changes to the flag policy, and further that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward for adoption. And 6, the Renfrew Town Council adopt the revised indemnification policy, and further that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward for adoption. Are we all good to vote on these as a whole? Okay. All in favor? That's carried. All right, matters arising direct from Committee of the Whole. I didn't think I did. I'm going to need a mover and a seconder for those. I just read it. Councilor McDonald, second by Councilor McWhirter. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you, Council. The Renfrew Town Council adopt the final resolution considered in the Committee of the Whole on June 16, 2026. E.2.1, the Renfrew Town Council adopt the proposed bylaw, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 46-2010 with respect to additional dwelling units, ADUs, and E.3.2, the Renfrew Town Council directs staff to complete and submit the Development Charges Reduction Program application. Mover, please. Councilor Andrew Dick, second by Councilor McDonald. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Moving on to bylaws. That the bylaws listed on the agenda of June 16, 2026 be read a first, second, and third time and passed. 2026-51, execute a professional engineering service agreement with J.L. Richards and Associates, Limited for the Renfrew Water Treatment Plant Filter Rehabilitation. 2026-52, execute a memorandum of understanding with the Renfrew County ATV Club for the use of designated parking areas for all-terrain vehicles at Mataway Park. 2026-53, execute a construction agreement with 2618018 Ontario Inc., D-Rock Paving, for the municipal road projects. 2026-54, adopt a revised flag policy. 2026-55, adopt a revised indemnification policy. And 2026-56, zoning bylaw amendment with respect to additional dwelling units. Mover, please. Councilor Andrew Dick, second by Councilor McDonald. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. On to L.1. Motion of which notice has already previously been given. The Renfrew Town Council directs staff to report back on the historical significance of the property at 351 Arthur Avenue, the proposed designation of the property as a municipal park, and recommendations respecting park naming, donor recognition, commemorative features, associated costs, and incorporation into the town's park inventory, including ongoing maintenance requirements. Mover, please. Councilor McDonald, second by Councilor Andrew Dick. Councilor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor, through you, and just a bit of the rationale with regard to it. The waterfront property at 351 Arthur Avenue represents a significant community asset that was acquired by the town of Renfrew through a private donation intended to provide a lasting public benefit. As a municipality-owned waterfront green space, the property contributes to the quality of life for residents, enhances the town's attractiveness for visitors. Formal designation of the property as a municipal park provides an opportunity for council to both protect and appropriately manage the lands for long-term public use. It also ensures that the property is formally recognized within the town's inventory of parks and green spaces, allowing for consistent application of maintenance standards, asset management, planning, and operational oversight. Overall, the intent of the motion is to ensure that the property is appropriately recognized, responsibly managed, and preserved for the benefit of current and future generations, while enabling staff to provide council with informed recommendations respecting the designation, naming, and recognition measures and associated costs. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Revimo?
I think it's a great initiative. Thank you for bringing it forward. Municipalities, and not just Renfrew, we have a habit of finishing a project and moving on and not taking time to reflect on the significance of it, nor to recognize the significance of our projects and our holdings. So I think this is a great idea, and I think once it's completed, do an after event analysis and apply lessons learned, and let's start doing it all across our holdings and any other significant areas. Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Any notice of motion? Hearing and seeing none. We don't have closed. Confirmatory bylaw. The Renfrew Town Council adopt the confirmatory bylaw 57-2026, and that to be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Mover, please. Councilor McDonald, seconded by Revimo. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Council. Upcoming Council Regular closed council meeting June 23rd, 2026 at 10 a.m. Regular council meeting June 23rd, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. And we are now officially adjourned at 7:44.
Thanks for your patience, everybody.
Thanks for joining, Peter.
Just remember, guys, to fall on.